back. The financial crisis in this country will affect all of us in some way or another. Our next guest has developed a program that not only helps deal with the reality of financial insecurity, but converts that negative reality into a positive change maybe in your life. She is author and life advisor, Dr. Toni Galardi. Welcome to our show.
Good morning, Wendy.
Really interesting to talk to you before the show just a few minutes ago, hearing that we can take crisis and actually create positive changes in our life through it. Talk about what your book lets us know.
Okay. Well, first of all, within all crisis, there is an opportunity, because we know from quantum physics that when something has outgrown, an organism has outgrown its form, it bursts into chaos so that it can reorganize into a higher form. This is basic science. So at the end of any cycle in our lives, when we cannot grow any longer within that particular structure, that's maybe the marriage you're in, the career you're in, even the kind of exercise you're doing, the way you're parenting, something in it is no longer working. So what starts to happen is symptoms start showing up. You know, your children start acting out, or you're late for work, or you're in a car accident. All kinds of things are showing you, hey, it's time to take a look here. And if you don't, then maybe sometimes people will turn to addiction. That's a way in which they're coping. A lot of people are coping that way right now.
Doesn't that just stop you down, though? You don't.
Oh, yeah.
Because I mean, the reality is that these are changes. It's all cyclical. You want to move into a different stage in life that is your next season.
But if you're afraid, if change to you means loss, what you're going to do is put your head in the sand, and you're going to try to numb out and pretend it's not happening. They say the bars couldn't be more full right now. Restaurants are down, bars are up.
So, and you think that's because of the economy? So many people are hurting?
Yeah.
And so what's our natural inclination, not the healthy inclination, but the first response for people who don't have better tools for coping? To
numb out. We are a nation that does not like to feel uncomfortable. You go to a country like India, and it was actually rated, when they did a study of countries around the world, where is happiness? Where are the people the happiest? Here's a country with such poverty, and there's bliss in the people. Why?
And you see that in the poorest countries, that they are the happiest. Here in the United States, we have everything at our fingertips, and right now, because we're losing our money, people are desperate.
But we have an opportunity here. There is, inside this economic upheaval, we get to reprioritize. What is it that's really important to you? Do you really need to go out to dinner every night? Can your family be served better by eating healthy at home, by sitting around the television and watching together, or playing a game at night, instead of spending $50, $100 at the movies? So there's an opportunity, I think, inside the economic constriction to really have more contentment. We were not happier being much more materialistic.
You said something in your book that I thought was interesting, and that is that we should actually start to see our cycles when they're ready to be changed.
Yes.
And not wait for the crisis to force the change.
Right.
How do you do that?
There are signs. Well, the first sign that says to me that a client in my practice needs to change their life is boredom. If you're starting to do distracting things, like you're spending a lot of time on the internet or a lot of time on the phone, instead of really dealing with the issues in your life, that's one sign that begins the process of, okay, it's time to make a change. And if you don't make the change then, you'll start to get more depressed. And the more depressed you become, the more you're going to turn to addiction. So I gave, in advance of the crisis, which is stage 3, I gave tools for how to be able to deal with, in the first stage, how to be able to look into your life to see, where is there passion for me? It may be in a whole different direction I would never have considered. For example, I knew a woman who was working in corporate America, but she had a thing, but she would make pies for the school, But she would never in a million years think, I could make a career out of making pies. And actually, it did lead to that. It led to her starting a little business, a catering business, that only would have happened if she hadn't been fired from her job. You see? So there's all kinds of ways.
But why couldn't she have said, maybe I'll make pies
exactly.
and quit my job? Because that's oftentimes take charge of your life and move it in a new direction. Aside from economic factors, what types of crises do you see in people's lives, regardless, not taking into account financial situations?
I'll tell you, in my own life, it came as a result of an illness. I, was living in a house that was infected with mold, toxic mold that I didn't know. And I knew I needed to leave the house. I just intuited. It was just a feeling like, you know, it's time to, I'm not going to find a relationship, you know, while I'm in this house. I just had this feeling. And I said, but I have a house at the beach. Why would I, at a cheap price, why would I want to leave the beach? And so that's the left brain mind, you know, and closing down.
I'm comfortable. It's
right.
here. I'm, you know,
and then
a lot
I started
of effort
getting
to
sick.
move.
And then I started getting sicker and sicker. And then started breaking out in rashes. And an environmental consultant came out eventually, because my acupuncturist said, I think it's something in your house. Came out, checked, he said, your house is full of the most toxic mold there is on the planet. You have to walk away from everything. So I had to literally, within 2 hours, leave everything I knew. My photographs, everything I had.
And did you find, though, that your health was better than anything that you walked away from?
That's for sure. Not only that, 3 months after that, I got into a relationship. And I lived there for 5 years. So while I was living in somebody's apartment that I was subletting. So you have this picture like, oh, well, you know, I have this beautiful home. That's what's going to make me happy. But if your life isn't growing, and my life wasn't growing at that point, I was forced to make a change. Almost killed me. You know, it's connected to this mold. It's connected to 13 different kinds of cancers. So had I listened...
Could you really have known without having some kind of a diagnosis?
Had I listened to my intuition a year before that said it's time to leave, if I had just listened to that, I did not have to have the data.
What about relationships, marriages? Do you think that they naturally are going to end in chaos and crisis, and you know, or is there hope?
I think that there's an opportunity right now. A lot of people are staying together for economic reasons who probably would have ordinarily gotten divorced, and I think there's some of that could be good. Because instead of a knee-jerk reaction, which we have in this country, which is, I'm not happy, I'm just going to leave, that people are taking more time to go into counseling, work out their issues. So in that respect, if you actually use it to work on the issues, to change the nature of the relationship, to communicate more, then it can be a good thing.
In your book, do you provide tools to help people change?
Oh, there's tools in every single chapter. You know, and I have a CD that I also produce for people who have a hard time just following text.
We only have a minute here, so I want to make sure everyone sees this, because this, I think, is just tremendously interesting. The LifeQuake Phenomenon. It's going to happen. It happens to all of us.
Yep.
And they can get this online?
LifeQuake.net.
Okay.
And you can go to my website, where you can also buy the CD, or you can go to Amazon.com.
Amazon.com, all right. The LifeQuake Method, so you can listen to it in your car as well. This is wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Thank you.
It's very informative, and everybody could use, I'm sure.
This has been fun.
Yeah. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Very good. Well, that's all the time we have left in this show. Tomorrow, Mitchell Chase will be here with another new local edition that you're going to love to check out. So we will see you next week. Good night.
Those 3